The 5 most brutal arena spectacles of ancient Rome. The year was 80 AD. The deafening roar of 50,000 spectators echoed through the stands of Rome's newly inaugurated Colosseum. In the center of the arena, a young Christian named Perpetua was tied to a stake as the heavy gates creaked open, revealing a starving lion that had not eaten in 3 days. But this was not just another martyrdom. What was about to unfold would push cruelty beyond even Roman standards. Emperor Titus had promised games unlike anything the empire had ever seen. For 100 consecutive days, the arena would stage the most inventive, horrifying displays of human suffering imaginable. These were not mere executions. They were theatrical performances of calculated sadism, where death became art and agony, entertainment. Today, we uncover 5 of the most brutal arena spectacles of ancient Rome. Events so extreme that even a civilization accustomed to violence occasionally recoiled at its own destructive creativity. Namakia, naval battles of blood. The first of these spectacles was the Namakia, mock naval battles that turned arenas into lakes of death. In 52 BC, Julius Caesar inaugurated the tradition by ordering the construction of an artificial basin to reenact a famous battle between Egyptians and Tyrians. But these were no actors. 2,000 prisoners of war, 400 sailors, and 2,000 rowers were forced to fight to the death in full-sized warships. Soon, the waters ran red as ship after ship sank, dragging men to their graves while the crowd roared with delight. In 52 AD, Emperor Claudius elevated the carnage by staging a Namakia on Lake Fucino, involving nearly 19,000 combatants. Prisoners fought in reconstructed fleets of Rhodes and Sicily. When Claudius casually responded to their salute of "Ave Caesar, those who are about to die salute you," many mistook it as a pardon and refused to fight. Furious, the emperor unleashed the Praetorian Guard to enforce combat. For 6 relentless hours, ships rammed each other with bronze prows while combatants wielded real swords, spears, and bows. Survivors who fell into the water were either cut down or left to drown. Chronicles describe the lake as a cauldron of screams, blood, and shattered timber, while sharks imported from the Mediterranean tore at the drowning. Perversions of the hunt, venationes. The venationes, or staged hunts, twisted the relationship between predator and prey. In 81 AD, Emperor Domitian organized grotesque spectacles such as the Day of the Dwarf Gladiators, where men with dwarfism were forced to fight women of average stature. He also staged battles between pregnant women and wild beasts, perversely declaring he wished to witness birth through death. Caligula, infamous for his cruelty, forced prisoners to wear animal skins, crawl on all 4s, and face trained hunting dogs. He also introduced the hunt of mirrors, lining the arena with polished bronze, so the condemned were forced to watch their deaths reflected from every angle. Nero, after the Great Fire of Rome, staged nighttime hunts where Christians, wrapped in animal hides, were released into the Colosseum to be torn apart by dogs and lions, while others, soaked in pitch and set ablaze, illuminated the dark arena like human torches. Impossible gladiators, combat without escape. Traditional gladiatorial combat pitted skilled fighters against one another. But beginning with Emperor Vespasian in 72 AD, Rome staged impossible combats, where one side's defeat was guaranteed. A blind veteran was once forced to fight 12 children armed only with dull knives, stumbling through an arena filled with obstacles only he could not see. Other spectacles chained gladiators together at the ankle, forcing them into brutal struggles where every movement hindered both fighters. During Commodus's reign in 186 AD, the games descended into grotesque metamorphosis combats. Gladiators fought, and when gravely wounded, arena surgeons amputated their limbs on the spot, forcing them to continue fighting until they collapsed, mutilated but still conscious as the crowd cheered. Theatrical executions. Death as performance. Perhaps the most chilling spectacles were theatrical executions, where condemned men reenacted myths, ending with their real deaths. In 83 AD, Domitian staged the myth of Orpheus. A young poet, dressed as Orpheus, charmed trained animals with music until starving lions were unleashed, devouring him alive before the stunned audience. Other performances included the myth of Hercules, where a muscular prisoner, dressed in the lion's skin, was forced to reenact his labors before being burned alive on a pyre. The most elaborate was the myth of Prometheus. In 103 AD, during Trajan's games, a prisoner was chained to a rock while a trained eagle tore into his liver. Unlike the immortal Prometheus, the man did not regenerate. Arena surgeons even made incisions to help the bird reach his organs, prolonging his agony as the crowd looked on, transfixed. Damnio Adbestius, executions beyond death. Finally, the most disturbing were the Damnationes Adbestius, where death by wild animals became a psychological performance. In 89 AD, Domitian introduced progressive executions. Condemned men first watched others die, then were forced to choose the beast that would kill them. Some were told they might survive if they endured successive rounds against increasingly dangerous animals. Hope made their torment worse, but survival was impossible. By 212 AD, Emperor Caracalla escalated the cruelty by condemning entire families together. Parents were forced to watch their children die before meeting their own fate. Roman crowds eventually grew so accustomed to this horror that they wagered on which family member would survive the longest. Legacy of brutality. These spectacles reveal a society that transformed cruelty into art and death into mass entertainment. What began as executions evolved into carefully choreographed theaters of pain, serving not only to amuse the masses, but also to project imperial power and enforce social control through terror. Each generation of emperors sought to outdo the last, driving Roman entertainment into ever more unimaginable extremes. Even after the empire embraced Christianity, some emperors preserved these traditions, proving how deeply rooted violence was in Roman culture. The Colosseum remains a blood-stained monument to this dark legacy, a reminder of how absolute power, when fused with the hunger for spectacle, can normalize cruelty on a scale that defies comprehension.